All right, I thought we'd try something a bit different today. Go outside in the open. I've already tripped over 3 gutters and down a pothole, so luck be with me. So doing a little bit of a walk and talk, or a Sunday slither, whatever you want to call it. I don't particularly care. Maybe let down in the comments what we should call this segment. But it's going to come quite evident that I'm quite unfit, which is, I suppose, quite common with a lot of people in our career, or a lot of people do this. So it's a lot of hills. Hopefully I don't sound like Darth Vader after too long. But what I want to talk about today, when I get on top of this hill, there's birds attacking me, there's a road next to me. So this is a suburb I live in Canberra. This is Crace. It's quite hilly. I think we're done with the hill for this time. There's a massive one coming up, so I might have to cut the camera out because I'm probably going to die. I've been a bit quiet on the socials. So the simple fact is that a few people might know, if you watched a couple of the other videos, that a couple of weeks ago I pulled my neck out. Coincidentally enough, doing my 9 to 5. So where I work, there's a lot of roots in the trees. They've upended the pavers and all these different things. And I wasn't paying attention what I was doing and tripped one over. And when I tried to stabilise myself, I pulled my shoulder out and my neck out, which wasn't fun. So what I did then, I persevered with it for a few days. I went to medical, so just like your GP. GP gave me a couple of days off, gave me some muscle relaxants, called me pretty much an idiot, and sent me on my way. So then got home, took my muscle relaxants, got a call from the physiotherapist at work. So they booked me in for a physiotherapist appointment a couple of days later, and it was good to go. By this time I was back at work. Haven't spent much time there over the last fortnight due to me pulling my neck out, then what's happened in the last week, plus the kids being sick. So it hasn't really given me much time to do social media. eBay's been all right because it's been chugging along, doing its own thing. Yeah, and like I said, that I've pretty much tried to persevere and, maintain my body as best as I could, and hence why I'm out today doing a bit of a walk. So hopefully that wind's not too bad. I do have the little puffy thing on the microphone, I'm not too sure what it's called. But I am extremely unfit. Hoping to change that. But, so a little bit as to the unfitness before people get their panties in a twist and everything like that. Last year, I was pretty much diagnosed with high blood pressure, but I didn't know where it was coming from. So the cardiologist, if you are a cardiologist or you're Graham, the Aussie nurse Flipper might be able to tell me a bit different, but the advice was from them until they could actually isolate what was causing this obscenely high blood pressure, and I mean pretty high, that I had to go on pretty much blood thinners, blood pressure medication straight away. Was to limit my exercise to very light walking, very, very, very light stuff until they kind of stabilised my blood pressure and all those different things. I took that as don't do any exercise. Hence why I ballooned out. I put on probably about 15 kilos and I'm trying to lose it, hence why I'm going for a walk. And I thought, well, I need to record a video today. I've been quite quiet. Can't have the Geelong Flipper outdoing me or Joe from Profit First Reseller outdoing me with videos. So I thought I'd, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Got a house inspection tomorrow, so get this walk out of the way, then obviously I'll go help Mrs. Octopus clean that octolair. Anyway, getting back to the story. So the blood pressure medication, which has kind of hindered me, I suppose with my ADD or ADHD, whatever you want to call it, what flavour of the day it is, I kind of need to be told to do PT or PE or fitness or whatever you want to call it. I very need structure in that sense, that I'm quite good good English there. In regards to my other stuff, so working for myself wasn't too crash hot, but I learned quite quickly that I needed to change that pattern. However, physical fitness, exercise, and all these different things has always been one of those things that I struggled with. Going back, well, I'm 43 this year, but going back to say 25 years ago when I was in high school, primary school, I was very naturally athletic in the sense that I didn't need to do anything. I would go to regionals and states for sprinting. I was probably one of the top 2 kids in our grade, all through primary school, through high school for sprinting. And in retrospect, I really wish I had carried on with that, is that I was just naturally fast and just naturally awkward. Like I was saying before, is because I suppose in retrospect, I think the ADHD played a little bit into the complications that I had at school. However, running was my joy. I used to love running. Sprinting, wasn't very good at long distance. Now I'm not very good at long distance walking, in the sense anything more than 10 meters, I'm probably out of breath. But like I was saying, is that I really wish I had kept it up. The reason probably I didn't, because I never really pursued the carnivals, in the sense that I think I went to regionals once. I was quite competitive in the sense that I was quite arrogant, which is probably carried on. A lot of people know that. But so because I wasn't within the top 5 at regionals, the first time, the only time that I went, I was quite disheartened, a little bit pissed off, I must say. So then I didn't go back. I didn't really endeavour to do it anymore. Like I said, that I used to run. It was more competitiveness. Coincidentally, when I first found my speed, for lack of a better term, and that's not anything anything other than running, was when I actually got Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Master System, which is part of the reason why I'm collecting my Sega set from what I had as a kid. I'm not trying to complete a full set of Sega Master System games, because I'll be here forever and a day and be quite broke at the end of it, because there's a couple that go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. It's insane. So thought, like I said, we'd go with the running, which is the issue with my weight now, because like I said, is that I've always been a natural sprinter. Anything over 200, 300 meters, I'd die in the arse and not be interested. However, like I said, I should have stuck with it, which would have helped the weight. If we go on little tangents today, it's probably because of the ADD. I can't mask it because I'm concentrating on not dying, walking up this slight incline. I haven't taken my medication today, so there's that as well. So, like I said, we're in Canberra, walking around just a predetermined path, and seeing if we make it. Like I said, I'm trying to get my heart rate down. But going back to that, so I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. How that came about, and there's a few people that have been watching the channel for a while. They probably remember. Oh, there's someone coming. How embarrassing! I'm going to annoy Mrs. Octopus. She wouldn't come out with me. She's like, "That's embarrassing. I'm not walking out with that." Anyway, it's an old man. He's probably going to think something wrong with me. Talking to myself, but hey, probably something wrong with me. There's a lot of things wrong with me. But like I was saying, is that last year, before I got the blood pressure diagnosis, listen to me, I'm dying out. I went around and picked up a Facebook Marketplace pickup to sell on eBay. And if you've been watching for a while, you probably know who Grumpy Granny is. But if not, Grumpy Granny and I, the octopus, used to do a podcast. So we would talk about reselling, we'd talk about all things. And Grumpy Granny unfortunately got a little bit burnt out, and she needed some time off. Then I kind of let the podcast fall by the wayside. So we'll just walk past. Hey mate, here you go. But we kind of let the podcast fall by the wayside. He was laughing to himself as he walked past. So we let the podcast fall past. But truth be told, I wasn't going to pursue it because I kind of got bored of talking about reselling. And if you do watch reselling content, if you watch any kind of content for that matter, it's just the same stuff repeated over and over and over again. Like, you know, buy low, sell high, you know, make videos of, you know, garage sales and asking people how much, then, you know, putting angry Karen photos in the thumbnail of the video and saying, you know, yeah, she charged me how much, or she wanted how much. And what I'm finding a lot now is that the garage sale content is pretty much geared towards people going, hey, they want the eBay prices and all these different things. It's just part and parcel of what I suppose the cost of living crisis is. I'm finding it, as a father of 4, this is one of those tangents as well. I will put a pin in this one because I want to talk a little bit later. It's been bugging me a little bit. There's 2 camps in regards to this, but I will, like I said, I will put a pin on this and come back to that later. But going back to the Facebook Marketplace thing, so went and picked up 2 big tubs of Lego, and this is where it ties into the podcast. So Grumpy Granny, on numerous occasions, she used to say to me, don't buy projects, in the sense, you know, by all means buy Lego if it's brand new and sealed, but don't buy 2 massive oversized tubs of 1980 Lego with all different sets broken into it. For the simple fact is that I don't like building Lego. If I liked building Lego, it was probably a different thing. Because, yeah, it's only just going to sit in the corner and be another passion project that I'll get to. And coincidentally enough, I've had the same issue in the last month. Went and bought another big massive lot of, I suppose, girls Lego, for lack of a better term. It's called Belleville. It's from the 90s, I believe. So I paid $250 for 2 big tubs, probably 30 or 40 complete sets. My plan was to actually just photograph them at home, then obviously move them on that way. And coincidentally enough, my driving, you know, it's a beauty to behold, my driving. You hear people screaming forever. I went around the corner and lost the lot. So instead of me thinking forward and, you know, bringing tubs or bringing, you know, bags or something to put this Lego in, I put it on the car seats and pretty much spent the rest of the afternoon cleaning out the car of not broken pieces, but Lego that had gone everywhere. Got it all, and it's been sitting in a tub ever since. I could theoretically, you know, sell that Lego because of the rarity and because of what it is, all those different things, for probably $750 to $1,000, primarily because it's very rare and very complete set, you know, vintage Lego. For those that are playing at home, I did sell Lego for very many years. So I know a little bit about the market. I haven't sold it for a while because to me it's become too saturated, and that's another thing I'll talk about later. So my plan was to, you know, like I said, sell this Lego in sets, move it on, and go from there. Because there was a lot of interest with this lady in the sense that people were asking to buy individual sets. I went in there and bought the lot, hence why I got it all. So theoretically, I could have just sold it locally, piecemeal, and make some more profit from that way. But needless to say, it's sitting in a tub, put it on Facebook Marketplace for $350, dropped it to $250. Then I had like 3 or 4 people come and, you know, wanting it, so it's gone back up to $300. So besides wasting my time, wasting fuel, I'm making $50 for this thing sitting in the corner, not doing anything, gathering dust for the best part of a month, 2 months, whatever I picked it up. So do not buy passion projects unless you're going to do it. I strongly suggest if you are going to buy things, make sure they're complete and photograph them and sell them as soon as you can. Death piles. I'm very anti-death pile. We're coming up to the big hill. It's not big. It's a steep incline. Hopefully you don't get too sick. So if I pass out, if the camera falls over, there's a good chance I've fallen over. I've worn my parka as well today, which is probably not going to help things when I get to the top of the hill. Needless to say, what was I saying? So I went and picked up that Lego, and the lady was quite eccentric, to say the least. So she looked at my hands and she said, hey, look, you need to go see a doctor right now. I'm like, okay. They're kind of freaking out. And she's like, I don't want to alarm you, I can't tell you for certain. It looks like you've got clubbed fingers. And at this stage, coincidentally enough, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD. Grumpy Granny had her suspicions because she is or has ADHD. She's medicated to my belief, my knowledge. And she was saying, hey, look, you need to get tested. So I asked this lady repeatedly what are clubbed fingers. She wouldn't tell me. So then if you do have ADHD or you're a little bit neurodivergent, all these things started whirling around my head. The Lego, the original bulk lot that I picked up, it's probably about 5 minutes away from my house. So all the way home in the car, I was thinking to myself, oh God, what's club fingers? Kind of thinking all these different things. Then I did the stupid thing of getting home on a Sunday and typing in Google, what's club fingers? All right, really nice houses around here. Some bushland over there, there's heaps of kangaroos over there. A lot of rich people over here. As we go around the corner, you probably see the houses, they're massive. It was quite an affluent suburb in the sense that, on the hill where I'm walking now is where probably the most affluent people live in the suburb. It's quite nice walking up here beside this hill. So I'm hoping I'll do more videos like this to get me motivated to record and to exercise. So if you haven't already, Googled, we're right at the top of the hill. I need grain with my blood pressure. Just make sure I haven't going to pass out. Don't worry, I'm fine. So club fingers, when I typed it in, instead of typing in what's club fingers, I probably typed in something along the lines of, health effects or serious health effects of club fingers. I'm not a hypochondriac. What do they call it? Munchausen? I don't know if Munchausen is the right word. I'm not one of those people that hear something, then all of a sudden think that I've got something. But I do the research, much to my detriment. So club fingers. The first probably 4 or 5 results came up and said that if you've got club fingers, you've got like a 97% chance of having, like stage 4 lung cancer or something like that. And because, like I was saying before, I wasn't medicated at this stage. I had not so much voices in my head, more over-analysing. I don't know how to explain it, in the sense that I don't have voices in my head telling me to burn places down or anything like that. It's just a case of when I think things, I kind of, think 16, 17 different ways. So if I have a conversation with someone, and then I'll get in my head that they got the shits with me, or I said something wrong, or I annoyed them, and that could be just a masking effect hangover from when I was at school, where I'm chronically trying to please people all the time. Even on this channel a little bit, when we first started, we kind of tested and adjusted, and I did mention earlier on that I wasn't going to delete comments in the YouTube comments, because I thought, well, I want to be completely transparent. I want to be, held accountable, which by all means I still am and still want to be. But you get some morons in the comment section. If you have watched other YouTubers, or if you're a YouTuber yourself, or other content creators, you get really this kind of society giving their 2 cents worth. And by all means, that, and I think other people say this as well, is that the likelihood of them saying that to you directly in the street is probably minimal, right? I would have no issues if they got on the camera or they jumped on the podcast and said, hey, look, you're a parasite, I hate resellers, or I hate what you do, or you're weird looking, or you're ugly, or whatever they want to say. These are the houses. Yeah, probably not flash by anyone's standards, but I think they're really cool. Keep fantasise about moving in, potentially if I won the lottery, not squatting. But yeah, like I said, that I started change that tact pretty quick, because like I said, is that once you tell people that you don't want to delete comments, or you want to be held accountable, you kind of put in a rod for your back, in the sense that people will take advantage of that. And I have deleted probably 1 or 2 comments just by virtue of I think these people are clinically insane, to tell you the truth. But enough of that. But yeah, like I say, with this club fingers, I was, kind of freaking out and, convinced myself I had lung cancer, and, almost going through the grieving process, thinking, oh God, my plans for world domination, being brutally cut short, because I had stage 4 lung cancer because of these club fingers. Then I started doing more research, because I went to work the next day, and for those that don't know, where I work, we get access to free medical. The benefit of that is that you get what you pay for. So where, as a civilian, I suppose, when I was working for myself, I could ring up the GP, and if there's a cancellation, I could get in on that day. With having free medical, it's about a 3-month wait. So I spoke to the receptionist and said, hey, look, I've got some serious concerns. I think, I've had a nurse, which the lady was a nurse, so by all means, she's not just some random. Had a nurse, say that I've got club fingers and it's in my best interest to go see a GP straight away. Hyperventilating, freaking out all the way through. And she's like, yeah, no worries, the next available doctor's in 6 weeks. So you can imagine what I felt like for 6 weeks. And it might have been around that time. If you went back to earlier episodes, I don't know if we're still doing the podcast at this time. It probably wasn't, because I probably would have been talking to Grumpy Granny about it. And I don't think I think Grumpy Granny went into her sabbatical at that stage. So I had no one to talk about it. My wife, I didn't want to talk to her about it because obviously I didn't want to freak her out, didn't want to freak the kids out, didn't want to do all these different things. So instead of talking about it, I kind of bottled it up, right? To the point where the 6 weeks came around, I was convinced I had lung cancer, I was convinced that I had all the other comorbidities, everything else that goes with it. So there's, to be brutally honest, I'm not going to tell people what club fingers are, and by all means, choose your own adventure if you want to look at it. If you want to have a look at it yourself, because I don't want to obviously convince people they got club fingers, but if you look at King Charles, if you look at Hawkeye, I can't think what the actor's name is. I keep thinking Clint Eastwood, but it's definitely not Clint Eastwood. They've got club fingers. Mine are nowhere near as bad. They're just fat. And as whilst waiting to go see the doctor, I kind of convinced myself 50-50 that I had lung cancer. For the simple fact is that there's a test you can do which will basically rule out club fingers or tell you if you've got club fingers, right? So realistically, if you can do this test, you don't have club fingers. So I went and seen the GP, and needless to say, the GP that I've seen, going back to my previous statement of you get what you pay for. So I went and told the GP, told him all my grievances, freaking out. And he's like, well, club fingers is generally stage 4 lung cancer. I've never seen it before because it's so rare. I'm just going to get another doctor. So he went and got another doctor out of the place. The other doctor came around. She's like, yeah, I think it is. I think it is club fingers. Yeah, I think it is. And by all means, my blood pressure's going through the roof. This is when they first diagnosed me with blood pressure. And she's like, yeah, maybe we should refer him to a lung specialist. I'm not too sure what a lung doctor is, but we'll just say lung specialist. And I'm like, okay, cool. So at no point did this doctor have bedside manner in any capacity, and not saying that they should, not saying they shouldn't, by virtue of their job. However, I've said numerous times before, as part and parcel of my job, I'm kind of like a HR manager, if you will, kind of like a bastardized HR manager. But we take, as part of our role, like welfare and mental health and all those different things, but no means I'm a practitioner or anything along the lines of that. It's just a case of that we get specialised training to focus on people with ideologies. I'm not going to say what kind because I don't want to trigger people, but you can probably work out where I'm going. And things to identify people with mental health and to get them assistance or support as quickly as possible. And I think I've said it numerous times before, where I was working in Western Australia, I lost one of my best friends that went through OTS, which is our officer training school. He obviously had an accident of his own causing, which is quite sad. I will go into that in a future video as to, I suppose, why I've kind of held myself accountable for that. My friend, our mutual friend, was a doctor, and she was trying to tell me, hey, look, you're nothing to do with you, don't worry about it, but I'll leave that to a future episode because I probably will get a bit upset when I try and talk that. And unfortunately, we had a contractor that worked for us that had a change of contract, and the new contractor, I suppose, for lack of a better term, they cherry-picked who they wanted for the team. Unfortunately, this gentleman didn't get picked or didn't get a job, so he got redundancy. And unbeknownst to me, which was quite right to say, because we didn't really deal with these people. They were kind of organised and managed by a different organisation, but they worked with us. He must have had some other issues going on at home, and unfortunately, yeah, you probably finish the sentence from that way, which is, like I said, within the space of 3 months after James passing and having this gentleman pass, and the circumstances of how he was found, I can't sugarcoat that. It was traumatising to say the least. So, not that I had that sort of ideology, because I'm quite driven and quite, got up another hill. I'm quite driven, and I do have goals and aspirations. So at no point did that come into my mind when I self-diagnosed myself with stage 4 lung cancer and all these different things, besides never smoked a cigarette in my life. So like I say, it was pretty much diagnosed myself. The doctor didn't have any bedside manner. He pretty much told me to harden up and get on with it. And I'll be booked in for the lung doctor and the heart doctor, because I forgot to mention the club fingers can either be cardiac or something to do with your heart. If this is the first time you're watching me, yes, I'm an idiot. No, I can't talk. And it's not because I'm puffing and wheezing my guts up, walking up and down the hills. It's primarily because I can't talk at the best time. The best way to put it is that I think my sentences in my head are like 3 or 4 sentences ahead. It's almost like a mini script going through your head at a time, just shooting it out. And sometimes it wants to shoot it out 4 sentences at once, and I can't pronounce words, or I'll just start mumbling, or I'll start having conniptions, and people going, what the hell's going on with this guy? Oh, it's quite nice up here. This is the top of Crace, so you probably can't really see much, but there's some playground behind me. I'm kind of kicking myself. I didn't bring my Pokemon Go. My watch on? Yes, I got my watch on. Hopefully my watch picks it up. So 6 weeks later, went to see the cardiologist, and the cardiologist said, hey, look, your high blood pressure, we can't pinpoint it. Hence going back to that original thing saying that don't do very minimal exercise until the medication stabilises. And I took that as, sit on your ass, get fat, and don't do anything, and berate people on the internet wearing an octopus costume. Maybe that's what it is. And I was telling him, the cardiologist, there's 2 cardiologists in this story, so if I trip up, just remember there's 2. I was telling him that I was freaking out, kind of like almost giving this guy a complete detox. And going back to my profession is that we're uber, I suppose, I won't say fantastic, we're uber at fault for looking after everyone else's mental health and not looking after our own, or like each other's within that category. So at no point did anyone ask if there was anything wrong, or did anyone ask past the, you've been a bit quiet. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm fine, and all these different things, and freaking out, like screaming on the inside. My boss is quite attentive. He used to ask me if I'm okay, and I said, yeah, I'm fine. Like I said, didn't want to bring issue to anyone, or raise it and be an issue, because I'm the one that's supposed to solve the issues. So the cardiologist, I'd pretty much dumped to them. And he said, like, mate, you need to go see a psychiatrist. I'm like, oh, geez, I don't want to see a psychiatrist, because to me, where I worked when I was in West Australia, I used to work in close proximity to a psychologist. So a psychologist and I used to talk quite frequently, and this gentleman had no concept of personal space. And I always felt like he was psychoanalyzing me. Hence, there's probably another thing going through my mind, and triggering me, and different angles of conversations and stuff like this. Anyway, I'm like, oh God, now that's another thing I'm going to do, go see a psychologist. So, luckily enough, I went and see a psychologist, because they action quite quickly on that stuff, and at work. If you haven't worked out where I'm from, I work in defence. So they work on top of that really quickly. So I went and seen a psychiatrist probably within the next week, and he said, what's on your mind? And I just pretty much told him everything. He's sitting there nodding. I'm like, oh God, am I saying the right things? Or, like I said, that I'm not one to break down or not wanting to, kind of spill my guts per se, but it's one of those things that you kind of think to yourself, well, I don't want to waste this opportunity. So I kind of spilled everything in my guts and said, hey, look, I went to this Lego marketplace pickup. This poor guy had no idea what I was talking about. He's nodding and smiling, thinking, God, hopefully this hour comes up pretty quick. Anyway, I said, I've got club fingers and, self-diagnosed myself with lung cancer and all these different things, and been, diagnosed with high blood pressure and not told to do any exercise and all these different things. Then he's like, okay, then I let it slip that I was on a podcast with Grumpy Rennie, and that she mentioned that I had very similar symptoms to her and to her relatives that also have ADHD or ADD. And he's like, okay, cool, I'll give you a test. So he came back, you have a test where they ask you questions. It came back very high for ADD qualities. So I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was probably in to be normal, I suppose, lack of a better term. I think it had to be under 10. I think it came back as like 40, something ridiculous like that. So purely ADHD, nothing autistic, besides probably what a lot of people think on YouTube. And like I said before, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own, uniqueness, I suppose, for lack of a better term. And I've never talked down to it, because, like I said, I've always been a little bit different. Even at school, had very strong friendships, but very few friend groups, if that makes sense. Like very ones and twos and all those different things. So anyway, so he diagnosed me with ADHD, put me on Ritalin, and he said, look, start with half a tablet for 3 times a day, see how you go from that. The script was for 1 tablet 3 times a day, but he said, let's start with half. And at the best of times, I forget things. Unless I write it down, I forget things. So lo and behold, I started taking a tablet 3 times a day. Just bypassed the half one. And almost immediately, the voices in my head stopped. They went completely silent. Like literally nothing. No longer psychoanalyzing things, no longer convincing myself I had, stage 15 lung cancer. Birds everywhere. There's a lot of parrots and everything around here. Going through the bushland now. And like I was saying to my boss, I told my boss that I got diagnosed with ADHD. He thought there was something wrong with me. He's like, oh, you okay? I was like, yeah. He goes, have you noticed any differences taking medication? And he's, I suppose, if you can think of an epitome of masculinity, it's him. This guy is like literally 6 foot tall and built like, Schwarzenegger. He's massive, gym junkie, loves it, fantastic guy, great, probably one of the best bosses I've ever worked for. And he said, look, have you noticed any different? And I said, the biggest thing I've noticed is that whenever I come and talk to you now, I don't give a shit. Because before I was, like pre-prepping, everything in my head, situational awareness is, kind of like a flow chart in my head. That's probably the best way to describe it. If the conversation goes like this, yes, no, and go from that way. And he just thought it was hilarious. I was like, it's just, I don't have I don't psychoanalyze. I just take you on face value, because he's the kind of person, if you had something to say, he would come out and say it. But what I would do is I would basically go away from that conversation and go, oh my God, is he talking about me, or is, like pick up like a subtle tone changes, or pick up on little things and all these different things, or have a look at his computer and kind of think, oh my God, he's talking about me, or something along the lines of that, and go a little spiral from there. But like I said, the medication cut that out. Fast forward to then I had an MRI. So before I went and see the lung doctor, had an MRI. That came back clean, thank goodness. Went to the lung doctor, try to wrap the story up. Nothing there. There's nothing wrong with my lungs. It's primarily just high blood pressure. Then he referred me to his cardiologist, which to me at the time I thought was a bit of a, refer kickbacks kind of thing. Get a kickback from his mate. And his mate, this other doctor, the other cardiologist I mentioned earlier, said, look, hey, you probably got sleep apnea. Go do a sleep apnea test and we'll see what it goes from there. And lo and behold, I got referred to a sleep doctor then. So the sleep doctor, lovely guy, kind of looked like sounded like a little bit like Darth Vader, but like a jovial Darth Vader. Anyway, pretty much, long story short, came back with high sleep apnea, so I have to wear the machine, cracking my own Darth Vader after hours. I was kind of wishing that I'd lose a bit of weight, which was probably one of the side effects with this thing, but I don't think it's gotten there yet. Maybe if I angle it up this way, maybe I can lose weight there. So then, like I said, no lung cancer, just high blood pressure, and it's probably, at this point, attributed to by the CPAP machine. And I suppose the kickback from that is that I haven't gotten back into the motivation to exercise. So I wanted to do some exercise, and hence where I am. I've been about 6 to 8 weeks on the CPAP machine, maybe a little bit longer. Psyching myself out to go exercising, do walks and all those different things. But never got around to it. Kind of one of these other things get up, I kind of stick myself to the computer to do eBay 24 hours a day. If I'm not sleeping, if I'm not working, I'm trying to do eBay stuff or all these different things. Much to the neglect of my kids and my wife. So kind of loops around what I want to talk about earlier. So what I'm finding at the moment is that there's a cost of living crisis, right? So I've made my 17-year-old daughter yesterday quite acutely aware of the situation that is in Australia at the moment, and probably worldwide. Let me know in the comment section below if it's similar to where you are. Being in Canberra kind of helps it, but doesn't kind of help it, if that makes sense. There is a lot of government jobs down here that do pay quite well, but in the grand scheme of things, it's probably proportionate, it's smacked into a tree, proportionate to the cost of living here. All right, we should be back. I just had a low battery thing. Should be proportionate to the rate of pay here. So because you're on a high income here, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be well off. So I was telling my daughter yesterday that she wants to pursue drama. Someone's got a whole bunch of things at the front of the house. I don't know if you can see. Oop, there. I have no idea what it is. It looks like it's catalogues or something. Cost of living crisis. She works at Kmart. She's got a high school job for like a bit of term. She's in year 12 at the moment. She wants to pursue acting and theatre. And I have a tendency to get a little bit grumpy when people don't understand, because I suppose I've got experience. I was very similar to her. Believe it or not, I wanted to be a space marine when I was her age because I was obsessed with Doom. To my knowledge, there's no space marines yet, but maybe a couple of centuries ahead of myself. But like I said, she wants to do theatre. She's extremely introverted. So I said to her, we'll create a YouTube channel together. We'll just do walks, we'll do talks, we'll get her desensitized to the camera so she can obviously pursue acting if that's what she wants to do. No, I don't want to do YouTube. And I say, okay, cool, you're right into anime, you're into, like manga, you're into cosplay, which for those people that don't know what cosplay is, it's kind of like when you see Comic-Con or those conventions where people dress up as their favourite heroes or superheroes or whatever they want to dress up as, furries if you're that way inclined, to go from that way. So, moving around, there's more people. There's always people. Where do these people come from? They probably think I'm weird. They should wait till it's Halloween to go and know if I'm weird or not. So, like I said, is that, do that. Do a YouTube channel, where you could basically say how to, do cosplaying, do, like manga, anime, talk about all those different things, go from that and build up an audience, then, go into private labeling, buy products, sponsor products, all these different things, makeups and, face paints and everything else that come into, to cosplay and all those different things, and, build your reputation up that way and make a career out of that. Because if I could do that, I'd be on top of that. She's likes to sleep in as much as she can, and that's probably something she could do if she pursued that. Like I'm saying, is that to me these things come, they just pop in my head. And I have all these conversations with Tori, the Geelong Flipper, all the time, where it kind of frustrates me, right? Because if you don't watch Tori, slide across to the Geelong Flipper's YouTube channel, have a check out. He's an author. He's a horror author. And what frustrates me about Tori is that, to me, this is only from my perception, like I said, is that I won't be far off, and Tori by all means can have a swipe at me in the comments, and everyone else in his Geelong Flipper family can have a swipe at me in the comments, is that I don't think he puts all his eggs into one basket. That's not to say it's a bad thing. That's not to say if it's anything different. He does reselling content, primarily reselling content, and talks about all the stuff he finds, and really, really, really good at building community. Fantastic. You know, like I was saying, is that he's really personable. He does have, you know, his support of his loyal followers and all those different things. But his reselling could probably shape up a little bit, if I have to say so myself. But that's needless to say. Like I said, that's nothing new to Tory. Pretty much have a go at him every time we talk. But like I said, he was an author, or he is an author. And his books, I have bought a couple. I gifted them to some people that are quite warped sense of humour, or very warped in a sense of horror, and they absolutely love these books. So I said to Tori on numerous occasions, like I did my daughter, create a YouTube channel, angle it, like I have myself with my Skylanders, angle it and build your audience and build your network and go from that way. By all means, do the reselling content, but do some sort of marketing on its own channel. For the simple fact is that you want to market to your customers. If you're marketing to reselling, and this come back to that loop that I talked about with putting an opinion in it earlier, and I'm almost home, so I have to wrap it up because my wife, won't like it if I'm standing in the lounge room just doing circles, you know, talking in front of a camera because I'm supposed to be cleaning. You know, if you're really catering to your market. So with the Skylander channel, I've basically just do shorts, do a little bit of long form content. It's quite quick growing. By all means, you know, nothing spectacular. It's outgrowing this channel just by the back of shorts, and it's actually created a funnel. So if you are from a reselling perspective and you don't know what a funnel is, think of all your favorite resellers you do watch on YouTube that tell you to buy channel memberships, or they tell you to buy courses, or they tell you to join Patreon groups or Facebook groups where they charge you or tell you to buy their products. That's a funnel. So basically what they're doing is they're converting like a sell-through rate, if you will. Maybe if 100 people watch them, maybe 2 people buy their product or join their group or join their channel membership. That's a funnel. So that's kind of a sell-through rate, if you will. You really got to be careful of these people. Don't know what's going on. Someone behind me? I think my phone must be dying. So what I'm saying is you got to be very careful of what you do, what you watch. Tory's the exception. He's quite honest, probably to a fault. But people selling you services, selling you channel memberships, selling you different things, they are making you the product. Or sorry, making you the customer. So everyone's got alternative motives. Like I was saying with the Skylander channel, my thing is to sell Skylanders to people that care about Skylanding. But people that sell, you know, courses, they sell Patreon groups, they sell all these different products to try and make themselves more money, which is nothing wrong with it. You know, as capitalist, I don't have any problems with it. However, you know, with the cost of living crisis, to tie back around before we go, you really need to know where you put your money. You know, if you are spending your hard-earned money on, you know, products that you think are going to get you rich quick, think again. You're not going to get rich quick. Anyway, I'm back home and I'll leave it there, and we'll see you next time. Bye.